Yuki and Giyu had spent the night at Yuki's old home. Neither of them got any sleep that night due to the endless thoughts running through their heads. Giyu had been pacing back and forth around the perimeter of the house, while Yuki laid in a sleeping bag inside of the home. She stared out the window, looking up at the night sky, covered by dark clouds. A numbness had crept into Yuki's features and mood, and Giyu could feel the tension in the air. It was thick enough to cut with a Nichiren blade. Giyu wanted to try and comfort her, but he also didn't want to disturb her and make things worse. The night was painfully slow for the both of them. Neither of them were able to get any sort of rest. Once the sun had risen, they packed their gear and started their trek back. The silence in the air was deafening to the both of them, but neither wanted to utter a single word. Yuki's eyes were swollen from the endless hours of crying, and the lack of sleep only made her exhaustion worse. After hours of travel, they finally made it back to the Butterfly Mansion. Yuki felt the exhaustion hit her like a ton of bricks. She had started to slow down in her pace, and Giyu quickly took notice. He went next to her, putting his arm around her waist to support her. "Come on, you need to get some rest." Yuki tried to push him away, not really wanting his help. "I'm fine. I don't need any help." She pushed him away, but soon started to stumble forward. Giyu quickly grabbed her again, tightening the grip from before to not let her fall. "No, Yuki, you're not fine. You're so exhausted that you can barely keep yourself upright. I'm taking you to the medbay, and you aren't going to argue with me about this." Yuki groaned as Giyu pulled her along, not wanting his help at all. She tried to pull away from him again, but he kept his hold firm. He dragged her into the medbay, seeing that Shinobu was inside, treating another slayer. Shinobu's eyes widened seeing Yuki in such an exhausted state, before she sent the young slayer on their way. Giyu had laid Yuki down on one of the exam beds as Shinobu walked towards them. She looked incredibly worried before pulling Giyu outside. "What the hell happened to her?" Giyu sighed before he quietly spoke back, not wanting Yuki to overhear. "We figured out what happened to Cory." Shinobu's eyes widened before placing a hand on Giyu's shoulder. "She's not with us anymore, is she?" Giyu nodded, trying to hold back the tears forming in his eyes. "Yeah, but Yuki's taking it so bad because..." Giyu was having such a hard time getting his words out, but through sobs, he managed to say it. "She killed her." Shinobu's eyes went wide as she covered her mouth from the shock. She started to tear up as well. "Yuki killed her?" "Yeah, Cory. She was the demon we were sent to fight and kill. Yuki dealt the finishing blow, and Cory recognized us as she was dying. She gave us her final words, telling us how much she loved us, before she burned to ash." Shinobu could hear Yuki sobbing from where they were in the hall, and she couldn't help but feel so sorry for her. "I'm so sorry. I know that you must be in a lot of pain, both of you." Giyu could only nod, looking back at the entrance of the medbay, sighing once more. "Yeah, I know that we both are hurting right now. However, I am in nowhere near as much pain as Yuki." "I know. She could be like this for months," Shinobu muttered, looking back at the door one last time before an idea came to her mind. "Let's call the rest of the Hashira here. We can plan a small funeral for Cory, and finally put her to rest." Giyu smiled at the idea, soon looking past Shinobu and seeing Ubuyashiki walking down the hall. Giyu flagged him down, walking up to him with Shinobu following close behind.
Master, I have a favor to ask of you.
The master smiled, looking back up at Giyu.
Of course. What do you need, my child? What is the traditional service we do for Hashira after they are slain? Normally, according to ancient traditions, we would summon all of the current Hashira, as well as former, to come pay their respects at a shrine dedicated to the fallen Hashira. Why do you ask? Because Kori had gotten slain in battle. So, it has finally been confirmed after nearly 2 years,
he muttered, looking down to the ground and crossing his arms.
Kibutsuji did take her life that night.
Giyu shook his head before speaking in a darker, hushed tone.
Unfortunately, you misunderstand me. Yes, Kori has been slain, but she was the demon.
Ubuyashiki's eyes widened, looking nearly horrified by what Giyu had said.
Does that mean Kori died at the hands of Yuki and yourself?
Giyu could only nod, tears falling from his eyes. Shinobu came over and rested her hands on his shoulders, giving them a reassuring squeeze.
It's going to be okay, Giyu.
Shinobu's voice sounded choked up, trying to hold back tears of her own.
More child,
Ubuyashiki muttered, before looking up at the 2 Hashira standing before him.
I'll send a word out to the rest of the Hashira immediately. We will plan a parting ceremony for Kori. She deserves the honor to be given a proper farewell. Thank you, Master,
Giyu said through his tears.
It is not a problem. I'll get everything prepared by tomorrow evening. Please keep your eyes on Yuki, though. I don't want her to do anything rash.
Both Giyu and Shinobu nodded, watching as the master walked away from the 2 of them. Once he was gone, Shinobu looked over to Giyu before asking,
Do you want me to look after Yuki for a while, so you can get some rest?
If you don't mind, Shinobu. I still need to process everything that happened.
I understand. Go get some rest, Giyu.
Giyu nodded, heading in the direction of the extra rooms to try and get some rest, leaving Shinobu alone in the hall. She could hear the soft sobs coming from inside of the medbay, as well as some shifting. Shinobu walked into the medbay to check on Yuki.
Yuki? Are you...
She stopped in her tracks, seeing Yuki holding one of her swords to her hair, before cutting it off in a single slash.
Yuki, what are you doing?
She yelled, pulling the sword out of Yuki's hand.
I'm done,
she muttered, clutching the skirt of her uniform, trying to contain her anger.
What do you mean you're done?
Shinobu asked, putting the sword far away from Yuki before sitting down next to her.
I'm done hiding. I'm done hiding what I am. Kibutsuji has gone too far. Took away the person I cared for most. He's going to pay for what he's done to me and my family.
Yuki,
Shinobu muttered, gently taking Yuki's hand.
I know you're upset, and you have every right to be, but revenge isn't the answer. You can't let your desire for vengeance control you. Don't tell me what to do, Shinobu!
She shouted, pulling her hand away from her and standing up, reaching for her other blade.
Kibutsuji stole everything I had and left me with nothing! Muzan Kibutsuji is going to die by my hands, and no one is going to stand in my way.
Shinobu quickly got up and grabbed Yuki's wrist to stop her from grabbing her other sword.
Yuki, do you hear yourself? Think about your friends, your family. What would they think if they saw you like this?
Before Yuki could respond, She felt a firm hand get placed on her shoulder. The grip was tight and comforting, and a grip she had felt many times before.
Yuki, please. Calm down.
Yuki's breath hitched, turning to look at her fiancé who was standing behind her.
Kyojuro.
Kyojuro looks at Yuki, a sadness lingering in his gaze before he pulls her into a tight hug, running his fingers through her hair.
Please, Yuki. You need to calm down before you do anything rash.
Feeling Kyojuro's arms around her made her crack. She burst into tears, clutching onto Kyojuro and crying into his shoulder. He felt so guilty seeing his love like this, and tightened his grip to try and comfort her the best he could. Shinobu walked over, looking at Yuki with a tinge of pity.
I think you should get some rest, Yuki. You haven't slept since you left for your mission, and you look exhausted. Please, Yuki, just get some sleep.
I've tried, but I just can't. My mind has been constantly racing after what happened. I just can't make my mind come to rest.
Shinobu sighed before she had an idea.
I'll understand if you say no to this, but if you want to get some sleep, I can give you a sleeping medication. You don't have to say yes, but I thought I'd put the offer out.
Yuki thought about it for a minute before she looked up at Shinobu, lightly nodding her head.
Okay. If you think it will help me get some rest, I'm up to giving it a try. Are you sure?
Shinobu asked, really wanting to make sure about her decision.
I'm sure. I just need to get some sleep.
Shinobu simply nodded, putting a small dose of the medicine into some tea. She poured it into a cup before handing it to Yuki.
Here, take a seat on the couch and drink this. Lay down when you start to feel the effects of the medicine, okay?
Yuki nods, taking the cup from Shinobu's hand and into her own. She sat down on the small couch, starting to take a sip, before she pulled it away from her lips, looking to her fiancé.
Will you sit with me?
Kyojuro chuckled, sitting down next to her and wrapping a comforting arm around her shoulder. Of course, my love. I'll stay with you the entire time while you get some sleep. Yuki smiles, leaning her head on Kyojuro's shoulder, finally taking a sip of the tea. She finished the cup after a few minutes, setting it down on the table next to the couch. She waited for the medicine to kick in, soon feeling it starting to take effect, feeling the drowsiness set into her body. She leaned into Kyojuro more, closing her eyes and drifting into a deep sleep on Kyojuro's shoulder. Kyojuro lightly chuckled, seeing her fast asleep, but he was also relieved that she was finally getting some rest. He smiled up at Shinobu as he gently moved so as to not wake Yuki up.
Thank you, Shinobu,
he quietly whispered.
You're welcome. Do you need any help carrying her to her room?
No thanks. I can carry her just fine on my own.
Okay. Take her to her room, then go get some rest yourself. Also, thank you for calming her down. I was worried she was going to charge off and become self-destructive.
It's not a problem. I ran into Giyu while I was coming, and he told me about what happened. I quickly rushed over to make sure she wasn't going to do anything. And I'm glad I did.
Me too. Now go get some rest.
He nodded before he began to take Yuki back to her room. When he got there, he gently laid her on the bed before laying down next to her himself. He wrapped his arms around her, keeping her close to his chest. He placed a gentle kiss on her forehead, whispering, "I love you," before closing his eyes to get some sleep himself. The following day, Yuki had been feeling slightly better, but she still had this deep, lingering grief in her heart. She felt like her other half was now gone for good, but Kyojuro stayed close to her the entire day, comforting her every step. The sun was just starting to go down, and Kyojuro was guiding Yuki to a certain part of the butterfly mansion. Yuki was questioning him the entire way.
Kyojuro, where are we going?
Well, we all know how much you miss your sister, so we wanted to give her a proper farewell. Yuki was very confused before he pulled her out into the courtyard. All of the Hashira, current and former, were all standing out there before a shrine covered in lit candles and photographs.
What is all of this?
It's a parting ceremony for Kori, the master calmly stated, walking up to Yuki. We wanted to give her a proper farewell since she was a Hashira, and also your sister. Yuki stood there in a stunned silence before she burst into tears again. Both Shinobu and Mitsuri quickly came up to hug and comfort her.
It's okay, Yuki. Please, don't cry.
Shinobu said in a soothing voice.
Everything will be okay. Please, don't be sad.
Mitsuri whispered, wiping away Yuki's tears. Yuki nodded, giving a sad smile as she looked at the shrine.
I know it will, but it will just take some time.
We know this will be a difficult time for you, but all of us will be here for you. Tengen chimed in, putting a firm but comforting hand on her shoulder. I understand how you feel, Muichiro stated, walking up behind her. I lost my twin brother to demons, so I know the pain you're going through. The rest of the Hashira all gave their condolences and showed their respects to the former Hashira. They stayed at her shrine for hours, paying respects to Kori. As the night came to a close, just Yuki and Kyojuro remained at the shrine. Yuki was putting out the candles and smiling with a single tear running down her face. Kyojuro walked up to her, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. Are you ready to head back inside? Just about, she said, before she walked up to the shrine, taking off her Hiyori and placing it on it. It's time I get one of my own design. The past 2 years, I've tried to become what Kori was. Now it's time for me to move on and become my own person. Kyojuro gave Yuki a gentle smile, taking her hand and taking her back inside, leaving the shrine alone with the Hiyori gently flowing in the wind.